You know, for me to hang out with, to be friends with Marco Pierre White is something unimaginable to me. 15 years ago, 20, I remember when somebody first brought in a copy of White Heat into the kitchen I was working in. All of us, our jaws dropped. The original rock star chef. We saw that picture of those pictures in White Heat of that food and that chef. The first time we'd ever seen a chef who looked like us. Wasn't a fat French guy. It was, this haunted-looking dude with, sunken cheeks, with a cigarette hanging out of his face, standing in the kitchen. And we were all just so totally validated by it. So years later, just on the strength of this book, to find myself in a position to go make television with Marco Pierre White, my voice still gets all high and squeaky just thinking about it. I'm still a fanboy, and so I'm enjoying this ride a lot. So I feel a little uncomfortable when I'm accused of being an educator or whatever. It's certainly not a role model. In many ways, I think this book is trying to kind of correct any impression that people might have gotten, or some impressions people might have gotten from Kitchen Confidential. Most significantly, that I'm in some way a chef. It's been 10 years. I'm not a chef anymore. A chef has calluses on their hands and goes home smelling of onions and garlic, and they have beef fat under their nails, and when they wake up in the morning it hurts. That's not my life anymore, and I felt it kind of necessary to acknowledge that. I have become one of those terrible, terrible people who, will actually find themselves saying things like, "Oh no, foie gras again?" And that's an awful and untrustworthy place to be. And I guess it's something that I'm trying to come to terms with. I'm also trying to, come to terms with the anger that was in Kitchen Confidential. I mean, I hated Emeril in principle back in those days, just because I didn't understand that world at all. Who was this asshole on TV? How come he was so nice? People seemed to like him. Strangers in a studio liked him. That was so foreign to my experience from my tiny little tunnel, my little submarine with a bunch of sweaty tattooed guys. I hated the very notion of him. Of course, now I'm part of the problem. I don't think it should come as a surprise that I'm a little more sympathetic to Emeril these days. And we've actually had a few cocktails now and again. I tell him all the time, I hate your show, but I respect him. At least he's a chef. At least he put in the time. He started sweeping floors. He worked his way up. He runs real good restaurants. But why am I still angry? When I wrote this book, I really honestly thought, I'm a dad now. It's 10 years later. My life is unbelievably good. What am I so pissed about? Why do I care? And I guess it's that food's important to me. That I still boil with rage every time I go into a restaurant and am served. Well, no, I can go into a restaurant and be served a bad meal, and I don't mind, or a mediocre meal. But bad Italian food? If you're telling me this is a Tuscan restaurant and you can't properly sauce a fucking pasta, I get cranky. If you're telling me this is Mexican food and any grandmother in Mexico can make this better, and I'm pretty sure they don't put cheddar cheese on Mexican food in Mexico, I get cranky. If I see somebody on TV disrespecting food, or read about somebody worse, disrespecting chefs, particularly when it's a writer or a journalist or somebody who claims to love food, that makes me cranky. People who write about, so many times people who write about food, who claim to love food, who claim to love restaurants, this is their vocation, this is their passion, but who seem to have contempt for the people who actually prepare their food. That tends to make me cranky as well. On the good side, it's all about rainbows and unicorns with me lately. I'm a dad. The leather jacket went in the garbage about 5 minutes after the birth of my daughter. The thumb ring came off, the earring went, it's gone. There's that Bebo song, "I'm Through Being Cool." That happened, immediately on seeing my daughter's face. So I think the book is also an attempt to correct that impression too. Nobody wants to see it. Dads aren't cool. I guess that's what I'm saying. They shouldn't be. I mean, You know, you see your dad in the back of a rock and roll club, you know, not bald dude with a ponytail nodding his head. That's creepy. You know, dads shouldn't rock. So I guess I'm trying to correct that impression too. Anyway, I just want to thank you for having me to Toronto, a town I don't know well at all. I mean, I know the Montreal Mafia pretty well, and the Vancouver crew. Toronto's pretty much a blank slate for me, but so far, looking at Mr. P over there, it's really looking up. So thank you very much for coming, and let's drink.